Once upon a time, there was a duck who lived on an islet in the middle of a vast, shimmering lake, surrounded by tall, whispering poplars. The lake wasn't just home to ducks, it was alive with swans, frogs, and darting fish, all adding to its charm. This duck, however, had only one dream: to have a family of her own. She often imagined herself gliding gracefully across the water, a trail of fluffy little ducklings paddling behind her. So, when she finally laid her eggs, she nestled over them eagerly, waiting with bated breath for them to hatch. Then, one day, the long-awaited moment arrived. A soft tapping sound came from inside the eggs. One by one, tiny cracks appeared, and soon, 6 little beaks poked their way into the world. Mama Duck quacked with joy as she watched her babies wobble back and forth. 6 golden yellow ducklings, each more adorable than the next. Curious and full of energy, the little ducklings couldn't wait to explore. But whenever they waddled too close to the water's edge, Mama Duck gently pulled them back with her beak. Still, one egg remained unhatched. It was larger than the rest, and its inhabitant seemed in no hurry to come out. At last, another tapping sound echoed. A small crack appeared, then grew wider until the entire shell burst open. Out tumbled a duckling, larger than the others, but unlike them, he wasn't yellow. He was gray, clumsy, and awkward, his feathers dull like ashes. As soon as the other ducklings learned to speak, they wasted no time in teasing their gray brother. They laughed at him, calling him ugly. Mama Duck sighed, but held on to hope. Maybe he'll turn yellow with time, she thought. One afternoon, old Mrs. Goose swam by, her beady eyes scanning the brood. "Oh, what beautiful ducklings. Except that last one, he's ugly. You should get rid of him, Mrs. Duck," she honked. "No way," Mama Duck quacked defiantly. "I don't care if he's gray, he's mine. Someday he'll be beautiful." The gray duckling lowered his head. He was already used to such words. As days passed, things only got worse. Every time they crossed the barnyard, the other animals snickered and mocked him, pushed, pecked, and prodded. He felt completely unwanted. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of fire and gold, he ran away. He darted into the bushes, hiding from the world. Alone and miserable, he wandered along the lake's edge, stopping only to gaze at his reflection in the water. A gray, chubby, ugly duck stared back at him. Sighing, he kept walking until he stumbled upon a family of wild ducks. To his surprise, they welcomed him warmly. They didn't seem to care that he was gray. He finally had friends. For the first time, he felt a glimmer of happiness as they swam together and took little trips across the lake. But happiness, it seemed, was fleeting. One crisp morning, the wild ducks took flight, heading south for the winter. The duckling longed to go with them, but he was too afraid to fly such a long way. As the days grew colder and the sky turned gray, loneliness crept in once more. Then, winter arrived in full force. Snow swirled in icy gusts, and the duckling shivered in his makeshift shelter. One bitter night, he collapsed, half frozen, on the ground. A passing farmer spotted him and scooped him up gently. Wrapped in a warm blanket, the duckling was carried to a cozy farmhouse. Inside, the crackling oven filled the room with warmth, and the farmer's children played around him, their laughter filling the air. For a moment, the duckling felt safe. Then, one child clapped his hands and shouted, "Let's play hunting!" Panic surged through the duckling. His little heart pounded. Before they could catch him, he bolted. Flapping wildly, he found an open window and leaped through it, vanishing into the freezing night. Snow piled high around him, and walking was nearly impossible. He took shelter in a cave where eerie bats hung upside down, their wings rustling in the dark. There he remained, waiting, as winter dragged on. At last, the world began to stir again. The snow melted, the ice cracked, and the trees sprouted new leaves. The duckling, tired of hiding, ventured out in search of food. One morning, he found himself on a lake where a family of swans glided gracefully across the water. They were magnificent, pure white, elegant, and strong. "They'll only mock me," the duckling thought, turning to leave. "Hey, why don't you swim with us?" one of the swans called out. He froze. You want me to join you?" he asked, hesitantly. "Aren't you going to laugh at me?" The swan tilted its head. "Laugh? Why would we do that? Look at your reflection." Nervously, the duckling turned his eyes to the water. What he saw made him gasp. Gone was the awkward, gray duckling. In his place was a breathtaking white swan. His long neck curved elegantly, his feathers shone in the sunlight, and his wings were strong and proud. Overwhelmed with joy, he joined the swans, gliding across the water like he had belonged there all along. Just then, a group of children ran to the shore. One of them pointed excitedly. Look! There's a new swan, and it might be the most beautiful one of all!" For the first time in his life, the young swan felt truly happy. He had found where he belonged. And from that day forward, whenever he met a young creature who felt different or out of place, he made sure to remind them, true beauty isn't about how you look. It's about who you are inside. If you like this story, please subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories. Thank you.